Now let's talk about why you came here today. Pistols.
The word pistol always reminds me of the old westerns.
Know what you mean. Or they're sometimes referred to as handguns because they're supported only with the hands. Or sidearms because they can be carried in a holster on the side of your body.
That one is a lot different than ours at home.
Right. There's two types of pistols. From what you told me, your gun is what's called a semi-automatic. But first we're going to take up the revolver, which is what I'm holding. For anyone just starting out shooting, we suggest a revolver.
Why?
They're simpler to operate and more easily understood.
Oh, I see. You know, I've always wondered about something. Why is it called a revolver?
Because the cylinder, where the cartridges go, revolves. The part surrounding the trigger is called the trigger guard. The main body of a pistol is called the frame, and where your hand holds the gun is the grip. This is the front sight, and this is the rear sight. Again, this is the cylinder and the cylinder release. When you pull the trigger, the cylinder turns to line up a fresh cartridge with the barrel. At the same time, the hammer cocks back. At the end of the trigger pull, the hammer falls, allowing the firing pin to hit the back of the cartridge, setting it off and firing the bullet. Like I said before, the place where the bullet exits the barrel is called the muzzle.
That's basically pretty simple.
You're right. Now that you know the basic parts of the revolver, we'll go over the two other most important safety rules. Remember, the first rule was always be muzzle conscious.
Always point the muzzle in a safe direction.
Right. Rule number 2, never put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to shoot.
Oh, that's logical.
Right.
Oh, that's logical.
Right. Now we call this section of the gun the action, which brings up safety rule number 3. Always keep the action open and the gun unloaded until you're ready to use it. You try it. Close the cylinder. Now push the cylinder release and open the action. Very good. Now hand it back to me.
That's easy. I have a question. Could a loaded gun go off if you drop it?
That depends on the gun. Let me show you. In this particular model, there's a block that rests between the hammer and the frame when the gun is at rest. It's designed to prevent an accidental discharge of the gun if it's dropped or if the hammer is hit. This may vary on other makes of guns. You should always refer to the owner's manual if you're uncertain.
It doesn't seem so threatening when you break it down like that. I've heard that a gun can just go off laying around the house.
Well, that's like a car just starting up sitting out in the driveway.
The things you hear and read.
Right. Now there's two different types of hammer and trigger arrangements. With a single action revolver, the trigger has only one function. It releases the hammer, so you have to first cock it with your thumb. On the double action revolver, you can operate at single action if you want.
Tell me about that one, the semi-automatic.
That's just what we're about to cover.
Oh, good. What's the difference between them other than the way they look?
Good question. Remember where the cartridges go in a revolver?
Oh, on this one the bullet holder comes out.
It's called a magazine. We put the cartridges in the magazine and insert it into the magazine well. First of all, the semi-automatic has ammunition inside the grip, in the magazine. It has a single chamber, which is the rear part of the barrel. The barrel is enclosed by the slide, which moves back and forth each time the gun is being fired, cocking the hammer and reloading the gun each time. This is why it's an automatic. In other words, it does this automatically.
Why is it called a semi-automatic?
Well, a fully automatic gun would keep firing as long as you hold the trigger back.
Oh, like a machine gun.
Exactly. A semi-automatic means you have to pull the trigger for each shot, one at a time. It's referred to as an automatic, or auto for short, since it's self-loading.
Oh, it loads itself after each shot is fired.
You're picking this up quickly, Lee. Now, you should understand the controls and safety features on autos will also vary from make to make. This auto is a Smith & Wesson Model 645. It has 3 additional features the revolver doesn't have. A thumb safety to prevent you from putting it into operation until you're ready, even if you pull the trigger accidentally. The other is the slide stop, which keeps the slide back and open. After the last round is fired, the slide stop keeps the slide from closing, letting you see the gun is empty. The third feature is simply the magazine release.
Kind of like the cylinder release on the revolver?
That's right. To load the auto, you insert the magazine, pull the slide all the way back, and let it go. See that it's also cocked and ready to fire. On this model, you must immediately put on the thumb safety, unless you intend to fire the gun right away. When you put on the thumb safety, it will disengage the firing pin inside, allowing the hammer to fall without firing the gun. This is a double-action automatic, so to fire the gun, you simply take the safety off and pull the trigger. Which both cocks the hammer and fires the gun. On a single action, such as this Colt, you can only cock it by pulling back the hammer.
What makes the slide go back and forth when you fire?
Let me show you with this double-action Smith & Wesson auto. When you let the slide forward, it takes a cartridge from the top of the magazine and inserts it into the chamber. When you pull the trigger, the hammer falls forward, hitting the firing pin, which fires the cartridge. The backward force of the cartridge pushes the slide back, which ejects the empty shell, recocks the hammer, then the spring inside the slide moves it forward, chambering the next cartridge. This is known as a complete cycle. This entire action takes but a fraction of a second.